In this video I'm going to be discussing the benefits of a honing oil versus a water, specifically on resin bonded stones, which is kind of my domain. It's resin bonded diamond is the stone type that I use the most. A common misconception is that you can only use oil on a small subset of stones, which people refer to as oil stones, and that once you use oil you can't interchange oil and water. This is not really correct. You can use oil on almost any stone and you can switch between oil and water. You shouldn't use oil on magnesia binders because the stones can easily crack during the drying process, so it's best if you keep those to just water. Specifically with resin bonded, metallic bonded and electroplated, you can use oil or water without any issues. During this video I'm going to be demonstrating using my own honing oil. So if you don't like self-promotion, you're welcome to have a little tantrum in the comments. I know some of you like to do that. The purpose of using a liquid, an oil or a water, on the stone is to suspend the swarf and the debris. So when you're sharpening, you'll get pieces of the metal come off the knife and embed into the stone. You'll get the bits of the binder kind of break loose and coat across the stone as well. This can obstruct the abrasive from being able to make contact with the knife or make deep enough contact with the knife, so you lose cutting performance. And then often you'll be forced to dress the stone again, so you can sometimes wash this out. It's a bit of a pain, you know, if you've sharpened one side of your knife, the stone loads and you start having to wash it, that's kind of a pain. I often use a Naniwa Nagura stone on this, so I'll keep that Nagura like permanently soaked in a little Tupperware, and I'll sharpen and I'll pull the Nagura out and dress the stone and then sharpen again. Or at least that's what I used to do when I used water. Water doesn't really do a very good job on these resin bonded stones. It's much better than using the stone dry, but it's still not very good. You might have noticed, any of you that have got these Veneve stones, or really any resin bonded stones that I've used, you might have noticed that they do load really fast. The colour of the water doesn't really change very much, but that's because it doesn't actually suspend much in it. But the performance drops so quickly. So I kind of first really started considering oil when I was talking to Roman, and he was specifically talking about how good oil is and how it really unlocks the potential of resin bonded stones. So I started researching from there really. The first thing that I really looked at using was this trend lapping fluid. However, not all oils are equal when it comes to honing oils, but most are better than water. For example, this trend lapping fluid contains isoparaffinic hydrocarbons, and this can kill you. You know, it's probably not a very common circumstance, so with this, if you were to ingest this and then vomit, and then you choked on that vomit and some of that got into your lungs, you could or would die, which it seems unlikely, right? I don't really know how safe the vapors are of this on their own. They obviously aren't too bad, otherwise people would just be dying all over the place. But they do dry out your hands like crazy. So if you're freehand sharpening and you've got your hands touching the blade and the stone a lot, they really dry out your hands nasty. Not so bad for system users. But that was kind of a stopping point for me. I don't want to be using toxic stuff if I can at all avoid it. So I came up with this. It's a plant-based, biodegradable, very low toxicity. If you swallowed it, you'd probably have diarrhea. That's hopefully about it. It doesn't dry your hands out, it's clear, it's got no odour at all. It does make your hands feel quite soft after you use it, and it can clog your pores up, so you won't want to be washing your face with it, because it will make your face kind of oily, obviously. So for this demonstration I'm specifically going to be comparing water, or actually a water and soap blend, compared to my oil. You'll see improved results over water with any oil, but this is in particular very, very good. So I'm going to start off first. This is a cleaned and dressed 400 grit FEPAF Veneve resin bonded stone. I'm going to sharpen this Magna Cut Mule, and I don't know how much I'm going to sharpen yet. I'm going to sharpen with water until the stone appears to be loaded. I'm going to count how many passes I do, and we'll speed it all up, and you'll watch the sped up version. We'll see how loaded it is, and then we'll clean it all off, apply my honing oil, and we'll do it again as much as we did before and see what the difference is. So I'm starting with water here. This is water that has been mixed with some dish soap, which performs very slightly better than just water. So I think that was around 50 passes. I know I was supposed to be counting. I was counting, but also I kind of lost my train of thought and got bored. So it's pretty much 50, I think. I'm going to bring the stone in so we can have a look at it, and then I will dry it off and we can have a look as well. So you can see all the metal deposited here. It's not suspended, that is on the stone. The water is also, started evaporating and running off. So I'm going to just wipe this stone down with some tissue. I want to get a clean bit so we can see how much is deposited on the tissue. So we'll just have some tissue here. I'll dry the stone off. So we have some swarf that has wiped off onto the tissue. And you can see how kind of glazed it is, how much metal has built up here. Big patches of metal. So that's muting the performance of the stone here. I'm also quickly just going to get a very poor microscope shot of that loaded stone. So I'm going to go and clean this off and redress it in a minute so we have a fair comparison. But first I'm just going to try actually cleaning the stone with the oil. So I mean, you saw that it wouldn't clean off with the water because I wiped it and nothing came off. So I'm just going to put some oil on here and spread it around a little bit. I'm going to try wiping off the stone. So you can see we picked up a lot of the binder that was embedded into the stone, and it's also quite dark, so we've got a lot of that swarf out. And if we look at the stone, it's actually already clean. I'll just get a quick microscope shot. So I think that's pretty good evidence alone that the oil is better than water. But I'm going to go and dress this stone and we'll do another test. So the stone is all clean and dressed again. I'm just going to put some oil on. And we'll do another 50 passes and see how it loads. So that was 50 passes. I'll just lift the stone up so we can see what it looks like. So you can see the difference already, that the black swarf doesn't look like it's in the stone. It looks like it's in the oil, and you can see it kind of running. So we have proof here that this is suspending the swarf better than the water did. And last time when I cleaned this, I just kind of gently wiped it because I didn't want to disrupt the stones too much. So I'm going to just wipe it now, the same as I wiped the water, rather than scrubbing it, and then we'll potentially scrub it afterwards if we need. So I'm just going to cleanly wipe this. And I can't remember what the other one looked like. I think this is much darker. And we can see the oil is still on here. So we still have, down here, we still have some swarf. I think we've got some here. This is kind of where the most pressure was applied because there was smaller surface area. So we'll stick the microscope back on there and have another little look. Put the microscope down here this time, because this is where most of the loading is. I think that's pretty much all there is to say, really. It's kind of evident as to how good oil is compared to water. So the oil has run down underneath. That's one of the things that some people are worried about. That's what I was always worried about, is how messy is the oil. I personally find in most circumstances it's less messy than water, because it kind of sticks to the stone more, it's more viscous, so it doesn't run off as easily. Obviously we got some running under the stone. But you don't have to put much on, so it doesn't just go everywhere. You can just put a little bit on, and it's fairly easy to clean up. And it doesn't, well, this stuff in particular doesn't dry your hands out, so it's not a big deal getting it on your hands. If you want to pick some up, you can get it on my website, and also Gritomatic is due to have some shortly as well, so you can get some from Gritomatic as well. Any of you that previously bought this before this video, you will have had this cap, and I'm sorry for that curse. I didn't really realise how bad this cap was. When you dispense it, it will dribble down the cap and it gets on the bottle, and there's no way of pouring it without doing that. So I've changed the caps to these twist tops, and you can very easily just dispense a small amount and it doesn't really dribble, and you can very easily just clean the top off like that anyway.